All right. You know what time it is. Neil Ratner, Rock Doc here with a story. Today would have been Joe Cocker's birthday. So I thought I'd tell you a few things about Joe Cocker that you might not know. And as usual, a little background first. So as a young boy, Joe was a big fan of both Ray Charles and skiffle singer Lonnie Donegan. And he got his first chance to sing when at 12 years old, his brother, who was a musician and had a skiffle band, invited him to sing with his band. Joe loved it, got a band of his own, and at 16 years old, he left school. And what he did was he worked as a gas fitter by day and a musician at night. All right, now, Joe, as we know, eventually became famous for covers of Beatle tunes. But what many people don't know is that his first single, released on Decca Records in 1964, was a cover of a Beatles tune called I'll Cry Instead. And despite a lot of promotion, the tune actually bombed. However, the tune had some very interesting session guitarists. Big Jim Sullivan was one, and he played a very special Gibson Les Paul, which was actually the first Les Paul in the UK and was once owned by Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Amazing, right? The other guitarist, called Little Jim at the time, was this new, soon-to-be very hot session guitarist named Jimmy Page. And we all know what happened to Jimmy Page. All right. Now, as a matter of fact, it was not the last time Cocker and Page crossed paths, because in '68, it was Page who played guitar on Joe's Beatles cover of A Little Help from My Friends, a song that certainly helped make him famous. Now, also on that tune, Procol Harum drummer B.J. Wilson and Chris Stanton played bass. All right. As we know, Joe also became well known for his crazy stage performance, flailing his arms around wildly. And according to Cocker, I guess that came from my frustration at never having played piano or guitar. But it's just a way of trying to get the feeling out. I get excited, it all comes through my body. Now, I'm sure many of you remember John Belushi doing Cocker on SNL. Joe was rather amused by that, and a few years after Belushi first did it, Cocker appeared on the show with Belushi in an epic duet. I'm sure you could look it up on YouTube if you haven't seen it. Very, very funny. All right. One of Joe's biggest tours was the Mad Dogs and Englishmen in 1970. That was arranged by my old boss, D. Anthony. And drummer Jim Keltner remembered it as one big wild party, man. There were 52 shows in 48 cities. I missed it. I started working for D shortly after this tour. There were 52 shows, 48 cities. They had their own plane. There's a movie about it. It spanned 7 weeks, and the band was enormous, made up of nearly 30 musicians, including pianist and band leader Leon Russell, 3 drummers, a host of backing singers that included Rita Coolidge and Claudia Lanier. But it almost killed Joe, who had become a bad alcoholic and was suffering from depression. It was like just too much for him. All right. Now, while touring the States, Joe met Pam Baker. She was a camp director and a huge fan. And when Joe divorced his first wife in 1978 and decided to move to the States, Pam convinced her friend Jane Fonda to lend Joe a ranch she owned, and it all worked out quite well. Joe eventually cleaned up, and years later, he married Pam. Okay, now, even though Joe lived in the States for many years, he was kind of freaky about his tea. You know, he was an Englishman, and he would only drink his tea that was imported from England. And being a proud Englishman, he never became a citizen of the U.S. because, as he put it, he couldn't renounce his allegiance to the Queen. Okay. Now, although Joe is best known for his incredible performance at Woodstock, and believe me, I was there, it was incredible. Strangely enough, Joe's most successful song was the duet he did with Jennifer Lawrence for the film An Officer and a Gentleman. The song Up Where We Belong won a Grammy Award for the Best Pop performance by a duo, and it also won an Academy Award for Best Original Song. All right, now, the Beatles were big fans of Joe, but particularly Paul McCartney. And after Joe died, Paul commented, "He was a lovely northern lad who I loved a lot. And like many people, I loved his singing. I was especially pleased when he decided to cover With a Little Help from My Friends. And I remember him and producer Denny Cordell coming round to the studio in Savile Row and playing me what they'd recorded. And it was just mind-blowing. Totally turned the song into a soul anthem, and I was forever grateful to him for doing that." All right, the late, great Joe Cocker. I'm sure you're familiar with him. Maybe this weekend put on some Joe Cocker. Yeah, that's my story for today. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll have more stories as the days go on. You know where to find me around the internet. And as I like to tell you, always remember to keep on rocking. All right, goodbye for now.